Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are still in Scotland, which was unexpected as I explained in the channel message video that published yesterday, so go and check that out if you want. But basically I was supposed to start filming Swedish beer reviews for you again today and the Danish stuff and you know the kind of normal things on the channel, but yeah, flight problems meant that I'm going to be spending a little bit of extra time here in Scotland, which is obviously quite nice because I haven't spent too much time at home over the last couple of years. So yeah, more Scottish beers to come up, more English stuff, and potentially some Irish reviews actually. So I hope you enjoy this extended run of Scottish and English reviews, and like I say, fingers crossed we can get some Irish stuff in there as well. But we will need to see about the latter, I'm really not sure. But yeah, as we traditionally do on the channel when I come home for a little bit, I thought I would return to one of my local breweries once again. So for this review we are going to stick to Scotland. We're going to stick to my home county of Clackmannanshire here, right in the heart of the country, and we're going to go just a mile or two down the road to Alloa once again. So we're going to have a look at yet another beer from the wonderful Williams Brothers Brewing Company. These guys do some awesome session beers, but in recent times they've started releasing this range which is called the Totemic Tall Boys, and these ones are a little bit kind of more bold and things like this actually. They're a little bit more towards the kind of American side of things actually, which is pretty nice. But yeah, this particular beer is called the Chokka Blokka. It comes in at 4.8% ABV and they're describing this one as a Mocha Stout. So yeah, very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. I've had some very nice stouts actually from Williams Brothers Brewing over the years. Not the style of beer that I would, you know, most associate with this brewery, to be honest with you, but the March of the Penguins, I think there was one called Midnight Sun as well, which was quite interesting. Or was that a porter? But yeah, there was the March of the Penguins and also the Profanity Stout. Those are probably the two best stouts that I've had from these guys over the years. I probably like March of the Penguins a little bit more, to be honest with you. So this is one that I was very curious to try. This is the one of the Totemic Tall Boys that I really wanted. And so yeah, nice to finally get around to reviewing a couple of these beers for you here on the channel. Just before I was supposed to fly back, of course, I reviewed the Juice Tiger, which was very nicely done. A lovely West Coast IPA, that one, and also the Sapien, which I was very impressed with. So yeah, this Totemic Tall Boy range is pretty nice. So I guess the next time I will need to have a little look at the lager. And the I think it's a paleo that the other one is actually. So yeah, we'll see about getting those reviewed for you the next time I make it back to Scotland. But in the meantime, I think 3 out of 5. Or 3 out of 6 I should say, is a pretty good return actually. So yeah, definitely more reviews to come from this Totemic Tall Boy range here on Rampant Lion Reviews, and I would recommend that you check these guys out if you get the chance. Probably my favourite beers that I've had from Williams Brothers over the years. I love Caesar Augustus, the Lager IPA hybrid, Pavlov's Dog is great, and probably the Paradigm Shift, the Imperial Red IPA that they've got, is another very nice one. So yeah, those are probably my 3 beers that I would pick from this brewery. But yeah, as if anyone asked me about this brewery, I would always describe them as a kind of session beer brewery. They always do lower alcohol, very drinkable beers. But as I said to you, these Totemic Tall Boys are pretty interesting, to be honest with you. So check those out if you get the chance. But yeah, very curious to see how this beer turns out, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on it as well. Let's see how we get on. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Williams Brothers Brewing Company before. There must be about 15 or so reviews from these guys on the channel at this point in time, and there will be more in the future of course, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Scottish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to quite regularly at the moment because I am enjoying a little bit of time at home in the motherland. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Williams Brothers Brewing Company then, on to my brewery notes. So as I've told you many a time on the channel before, Williams Brothers finds its roots in the family-owned Glenbrew home brewing shop through in Glasgow. So the first ale that was produced by what became Williams Brothers Brewing Company a little bit later on was actually inspired by a 17th century Gaelic recipe for the Freya Heather Ale, which is named after the Celtic mythological hero. So back in 1988, a woman of Gaelic descent came into the brew shop with a translation of this ancient recipe from Gaelic into English, and she wanted to create a batch of this beer to share with her family, and she agreed that she would share the recipe with Bruce Williams in exchange for him helping her brew a batch of the beer to share with them. And I think basically because of the success that they've had on the back of this beer, her and her family basically get as much of it as they want. But the first small batch of only 5 barrels was produced in Tainoak railway station near Oban, out in the west of Scotland, and the following year word of mouth meant that the knowledge of this beer had spread dramatically, and there was a huge demand for it. So a little bit later on, in 1989, Scott Williams joined his brother Bruce, and they began to develop other historic recipes such as the Groatsit, which is a gooseberry wheat ale, the Kelpie seaweed ale, the Abelum elderberry black ale, and the Alba Scots pine. I think that's the only one of those that I've reviewed actually. But they list the official start date of Williams Brothers as 1992, and those 4 recipes that I mentioned to you a minute ago were originally produced at the Maclay Brewery in Alloa, and then at the Craigmill Brewery in Strathaven, which was actually built by Williams Brothers. You'll find Strathaven to the south of Glasgow, of course, but they brewed there between 1998 and 2004, when it was, of course, sold on to what is now Strathaven Brewery. But in 2004, they relocated to their current base at the 4th Brewery in Kellybank in Alloa, and this was when they adopted the name Williams Brothers Brewing officially, from what I understand. But oddly enough, they are the last brewery in the old brewing capital of Scotland, and over the years they've built the capacity of this brewery up to around 100,000 hectolitres of beer per year, and they've got plans to build a new brewery with their, just next to the current site actually, that will have a capacity of 200,000 hectolitres of beer per year. So it's basically 1 million litres of beer that they can brew at the moment, and they are planning to basically double that so they can brew 2 million litres of beer. But these days the brewery is run by Chris Williams, who is Bruce's son, and also Scott Williams is still involved as well. So it's still a family company, but it's more like Williams, Williams and Sons breweries now actually, which is pretty cool. But I do hope that at some point in the near future I can have the 3 of them on the channel at some point. I actually emailed them and asked them about this, and it was Chris who responded, and he was saying that his dad is now retired. Bruce is retired now, but Scott is still involved, and I do hope, as I say, I messaged Chris back and said that I would love to get the 3 of them on I kind of meet the brewery thing at some point as well. So we will see about getting that done in the future. The other brewery that's very local to me I want to do that with would be the Harveston Brewery, because they've had the same brewmaster since they started, from what I understand. But yeah, these guys, as I say, they produced a lot of nice beers over the years, usually lower alcohol things. I think the highest alcohol I've had from these guys would be about 7.5 or 8% ABV, something like that. So yeah, they don't really do the kind of 10-11% ABV beers. Can't say that, but yeah, they don't really do the madly high ABV things, but they do have some very, very nice tasting stuff, of course, and I have been impressed with the 2 beers I've had in this Totemic Tallboy range over the last little while as well. But yeah, as I say, for me, Caesar Augustus, the Paradigm Shift, and the Pavlov's Dog, those are probably my 3 favourite beers I've had from them. Freyk, of course, is a lovely beer, particularly on tap. I do like that one, and they've got various other really interesting things in there as well. I've had some really good beers from them over the years. So yeah, have a go at some of these historic beers that they do, and also have a go at some of their more kind of sessionable things, and if you can find them, these Totemic Tallboys certainly go down a treat as well. I bought this one in my local Lidl shop actually, which was very nice. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Williams Brothers Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Beer Advocate and Untappd pages to learn more about all those different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. Very, very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. So as you can see, it has that lovely artwork that we've become accustomed to with these Williams Brothers beers. The thing I find quite interesting about this is that it does have the pant thing on the back of it, so if I took this can with me to Sweden I could recycle it. But yeah, it's strange because I've never actually seen this particular beer over in Sweden, so if they are exporting it, I'd wonder exactly where it's going. Maybe it's just going to restaurants and things like that. It's certainly not been through Systembolaget, but for a while you could actually get Caesar Augustus and the Joker IPA through Systembolaget, which was quite interesting. But yeah, this one, as I say, really nicely presented. There you can see on the top corner of the can, that is the Williams Brothers Brewing Company symbol. Not sure. There you go. There you are. But yeah, 4.8% stout. This one, it says, this Mayan-inspired brew is a mocha lover's delight, a blend of coffees from around the world combined with cocoa nibs to deliver an intense stout for the ages. But yeah, 4.8% stout this one. It looks very, very nice actually. It sounds very, very nice. So yeah, this one isn't really any higher in alcohol, I think, than the other ones, other stouts that I've had from Williams Brothers before. It might actually even be a little bit less than that. But yeah, let's get it out and see how we go on. Half-litre can this, and I think I paid like $1.80 or something like that in my local Lidl shop. So you can't knock this one at all. Let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see what this beer has to offer us. So yeah, let's get it out and we'll get on with that tasting then. Let's go for it. This, I have to say, does look very nice. I've not had too many lower ABV stouts over the last little while. But yeah, there are some interesting ones out there for sure. I have to admit, when I come home, I do quite enjoy reviewing the beers because I can share them with my dad actually. It means I've not got to drink the full thing myself actually, which is quite nice. I quite like just having little tasters of beers, to be honest with you. But yeah, with the Williams Brothers beers, they are very, very sessionable and they're very distinctive as well. There's certain things about the malt bases and stuff in Williams Brothers beers that are very, very nice and very just distinctive. But yeah, as you can see and as you would expect from a stout beer, this one has poured a lovely dark ebony rosewood. If we shine the light through this beer, it actually lets a little bit of light through it. It's kind of like a sort of Coca-Cola, Pepsi Max sort of thing. It's got that kind of level of colour to it, but there's a solid half finger of a frothy, I would say, medium beige head on this one. Well, medium, light to medium beige head. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head there, but overall it does look pretty nice, I have to say. So thumbs up to Williams Brothers Brewing for the appearance of this one. It looks exactly as you'd expect for a stout, to be honest with you, so nothing madly surprising about that. Little bit of haze to it, which is quite nice. I should tell you the specs of this beer as well, because I wrote them down in the brewery notes. So this one is hopped with Magnum and Cascade, and it's got a malt base of lager, crystal and chocolate malts with some roasted barley and oats in it as well. So yeah, forgot to say that to you earlier. 4.8% ABV this one, the Chokka Blokka. So yeah, certainly looks the part, and if it's got oats in it, that explains why it does have a wee bit of haze. There is a little bit of that kind of reddy kind of tint to the edge of it too, but it looks very, very nice, I have to say, and kind of what you would expect from a Williams Brothers stout. It looks very similar to the other ones I've had before, of course. So yeah, nothing surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is. Let's have a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on with this one. Oh yeah, that does smell like a proper coffee stout. Yeah. Yeah, blended coffees from around the world, you can definitely get that. As I've told you before, I love coffee as an adjunct in beer. You know, these coffee, when it comes to coffee beans, they're one of the most complex adjuncts you can find along with hops. You know, for coffee, it's all about the MASL, the meters above sea level at which it's grown. The higher you grow it, the higher the altitude you grow it at, the more likely you are to get these kind of fruity and floral and all these kind of notes out of the coffee. But you can get red fruit, citrus, earthiness, aromaticity, all of these kind of things. Coffee is an incredibly diverse adjunct to add into beer. So I think this beer is going to be pretty interesting from that perspective for sure. So yeah, again, thumbs up to Williams Brothers Brewing for experimenting with a little bit of adjunct again. It's almost kind of like what they did with the. It is kind of almost like what they did with their historic recipes, but they've just, you know, done new beers in the same vein actually. But yeah, the aroma of the coffee in this one is very, very nice. It smells like a very rich coffee. There's a little bit of earthiness to it. It's got a little bit of aromaticity and just a wee bit of kind of fruitiness to it. So yeah, the coffee that comes out of this one has a very interesting level of complexity to it, and when it's a blend of different beans from across the world, it doesn't surprise me, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, underneath the coffee you can smell a little bit of a toasty kind of bread crust in there. It's got a little bit of that kind of brown, almost rye bready type quality to it, lovely kind of wholemeal brown bready sort of thing. There's a little bit of a kind of biscuity, McVitie's Digestive biscuity sweetness in there as well. I don't really get such a rich brown sugar out of this one, but definitely a more kind of biscuity McVitie's Digestive sort of thing. But yeah, other than that, there's maybe a little bit of a chocolate character, you know, a sort of 60% cocoa chocolate, something like that. But yeah, it comes across like a very, very nice beer, I have to say. So thumbs up to Williams Brothers Brewing for what they've pulled off here. I think this goes together really quite nicely for me. So yeah, this one I think will be very interesting to try. That's the malty side of the beer. There's one or two little woody and nutty qualities in there. and I think the chocolate is kind of adding to the dryness from the coffee as well. You can smell the coffee and the chocolate just kind of combining to dry things out in this beer. So yeah, thumbs up to Williams Brothers Brewing Company for this one. In terms of the hoppy side of things, definitely a little bit of earthiness in there. You can pick up a wee bit of a kind of floral aromaticity out of the beer, but in a stout, of course, it's not going to be madly prominent. A little bit of lighter grassiness, and you've also got some nice kind of juicy, fruity sort of things going on in this beer as well. So yeah, for me the fruity notes are, it's got a little bit of an almost kind of cakey thing to it, like a sort of datey, pruny type of thing actually. So I really like how all of that goes together. So yeah, the way everything combines in this beer in terms of the aroma is pretty damn nice, I have to say. So thumbs up to Williams Brothers Brewing for how this goes together. But yeah, let's leave it at that for the aroma. Take a little bit of time to enjoy this one. It comes across like a very smooth and very rich and bready coffee stout actually. At 4.8% ABV, I've got a feeling this one is going to be quite nice and drinkable. So yeah, just enjoy the aroma of this beer before you get stuck into it. Actually, it's got everything you would kind of want from a lower ABV stout. So yeah, let's go for it then. This one is the Chokka Blokka, a 4.8% stout beer with cocoa nibs and coffee, from Williams Brothers Brewing Company in Alloa, just a mile or two down the road from me here in Clackmannanshire in central Scotland. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Yeah, that's pretty solid actually, again. Yeah, I mean, this one for me, this is just a really kind of solid, drinkable stout from Williams Brothers, and it's been a long time actually since I've had a stout from these guys. Like I say, March of the Penguins and Profanity Stout were the ones that I always remember from them, and as I say, first stout in just quite a long time, so I can't really even think to compare it back to those two, but it's a lovely and smooth and just very drinkable one. It is still a sipper at 4.8%, but it kind of keeps in tune with what you expect from Williams Brothers. You do expect a sort of lightly kind of sessionable sort of thing. What I do think, the first impression I have of this one is, compared to the other two that we've had so far, the Sapien and the Juice Tiger, is that it's not quite as big and bold as those ones. This is more like a kind of traditional or a regular sort of Williams Brothers Brewing beer for me. I mean, what I might have done with this if I was putting it in the tall boy cans like this is take the alcohol up a bit and do it as an imperial stout, because I don't think Williams Brothers have ever done that. I think this beer might benefit from being an imperial stout rather than being just a 4.8% regular stout, to be honest with you. That's one of the things, and when it's released in the Totemic Tall Boy cans, I think that would be my one criticism I think I can have of this beer. Don't get me wrong, it is a really nice kind of drinkable session stout, but I would have just thought, as a Totemic Tall Boy, maybe you want it to be an imperial. That's the one thing I would say about this for sure. But that said, as a regular stout, it's very well done. It is really very nicely done. Very smooth and very slick. And as I say, just a nice kind of sipper, to be honest with you. So yeah, let's get the rest of it in the glass and just see how we go. Let's start breaking down the flavour and explaining it a little bit more. So yeah, for me, this beer, as I said, the first thing you're going to notice about this one is that it's very smooth and just very slick. Straight away with this one you can feel that nice kind of roasty toasty sort of thing just blanket the middle of your palate. Some nice roasty toasty black malts in there, a nice kind of smooth brown bready sort of thing sitting on top of that. So that roasty toasty black malt, it's not very dry, incidentally, it is quite smooth. That blankets the middle and back thirds of your palate. On top of that you've got a nice kind of brown bready sort of thing, and I would suspect that the oats that are in this beer are doing quite a lot to kind of smoothen this whole thing out actually. So yeah, I like how that goes together. So yeah, I do like how all of that goes together for me. But yeah, it's a very, very, as I say, the thing that you will get out of this is the typical kind of smoothness. And I do remember commenting that with the March of the Penguins, which is incidentally a lovely stout. That's a really, really good one. People ask me about Scottish stouts, I would recommend that for sure as a more traditional option. But yeah, this beer, I think, is just, it is really just, it's got a lot of things spot on for a lower alcohol stout. This one, I think it is very, very well done. So what I was saying earlier about it being an imperial, it doesn't necessarily have to be. I would say I'd maybe revise that statement. I'd say it doesn't necessarily have to be, but as a totemic tall boy, you know, maybe it's just an image sort of thing. But yeah, that smoothness that it has as its backbone is really, really nice. So you can feel in the middle of your palate the oats are just thickening the beer out a little bit, but if you go further back on the palate towards that border region between middle and back third of your palate, that's where the coffee comes out in this one. Again, the coffee side of this beer, it's very, very smooth. It's got a little bit of a kind of earthy character to it, some nice kind of smooth roast, a little bit of a, how would you say, it does have a little bit of a, say, it does have a little bit of a sort of kind of aromaticity to it. You get that a little bit further into the aftertaste. There's a wee tiny hint of a kind of red fruity sort of thing, not so much citrus for me, so more a kind of smooth, slightly earthy coffee with a little bit of aromaticity and just a wee kind of tiny touch of a red fruit, not really citrusy in my mind for this one, but that sits there on that border of your palate, on that border between middle and back third of your palate. You can feel on the back third of your palate there is some really nice smooth kind of bready notes in there and a little bit of a toasty, really roasty, toasty black kind of well-fired thing at the very back of the tongue as well. In the centre of your palate there is a wee touch of a kind of toasty, well-fired brown sugar in there, which is the crystal malts. That I think is probably what's doing that. So yeah, just a little touch of brown sugar in the very centre of your palate as well. Some McVitie's digestive sort of biscuity notes as you move further out towards the edge of the palate. If you go to the front corners of your tongue and then just move diagonally back the way, there's a little woody kind of quality to this one. You definitely get a little bit of that underneath. There's one or two little nutty elements in there, but overall it is a very nice kind of just smooth beer, this one. On the hoppy side of things, it's kind of what you would expect. In the back corners of the palate there's a nice little bit of earthiness there, and it smoothens out, you know, it really kind of gives you a very smooth edge to the beer actually as you move further forward. Yeah. It's how would you say? It's yeah, it's got a nice. There is the earthiness. I think does dry out a little bit the further you go into the aftertaste. But as you move further forward, it does develop a little bit of an almost herbal quality. And as you reach the kind of front corners of the palate, it develops a little bit of a kind of spicy, floral aromatic note as well. But then round the front curve of the tongue, the beer is just a little bit more kind of light and grassy in my mind. So the hops are doing kind of what you would expect. Magnum and Cascade in this one. Magnum is going to give you a little bit more of that kind of green component to the beer, but Cascade of course will give you a little bit of fruitiness as well, which is quite nice. So yeah, I do like how this one goes together on the green side of things, if that makes sense. But yeah, as I always say, on that front third of your palate, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So if you go towards the back of the tongue there is a wee bit, you get a bit of that kind of well-fired cakey sort of thing, like the kind of edge of the bacon tray almost. You get a little bit of that in that border region, but as you move further forward you'll get a few kind of, you will get a few sort of yeah, you will get a few kind of red fruity things coming out of that there. There's a sort of, I don't know if it's quite plummy, but it's got a little bit of that kind of dried red fruity sort of thing in there. There's maybe a wee touch of a raisiny sharpness to the beer, but then as you move further forward it becomes a very distinct kind of smooth figgy quality, and then right on the front edge of the tongue you'll get a more juicy kind of blackcurranty note out of this. I don't get so much of the more oily blackberry, if that makes sense. It's more figs coming forward and then a little bit of blackcurrant on the very tip of the tongue. So yeah, I do like how this one goes together in that sense. It's got a lovely, it really has a lovely kind of take on it, to be honest. It's got a lovely little bit of fruitiness to it as well. So as a lower alcohol stout, this one, I think it's very, very nicely done. It definitely has maybe a little bit more complexity because of the coffee in it. And this is, I think, is the first coffee stout I've had from Williams Brothers, if I remember right. The other two are more traditional type beers, if that makes sense, you know, all grain, no adjuncts. So yeah, it's an interesting one in that sense actually. But it's a solid beer, this one. As I say, I do think from an image perspective, maybe if they'd taken this up to be, you know, like a 7.5%er or something like that, so that it was an imperial stout, I think it might have benefited from that, since it is, you know, the Totemic Tallboys thing. But it is what it is, and as a lower alcohol stout, it works very well. So thumbs up to Williams Brothers again. And I can understand this. Like I say, these guys do the more sessionable beers, and that I think is potentially what this one is intended as. So yeah, I like it. I do like this one. But I like this, generally speaking, I do like most of the stuff that this brewery does. Is it one of my favourite beers that I've had from them so far? I would say it's difficult. It is difficult to say. I think this one is very, very nice, but probably again, it doesn't knock for me. It doesn't knock Caesar Augustus off the pedestal, or the Pavlov's dog, or the how would you say, the brain's gone dead now. The paradigm shift. I don't know why I couldn't remember that there. But what I would love to see Williams Brothers do, I'd love to see these guys have a go at some German lagers. You know, the Dunkel, the Pilsner, the Schwarzbier, the Helles, the Doppelbock. I'd love to see what Williams Brothers would do if they had a go at some of these German style beers, because it is, I think, all of the stuff that they do, apart from one or two, are, I think all the different beers are ales. So yeah, that's an interesting point about this brewery as well. But anyway, let's focus on the mouthfeel to round off the review. This beer, I would say, you know, for a stout beer, it's kind of mid-bodied, pushing to the top end of mid-bodied. The carbonation's very smooth. It does have a little bit of a silky and kind of slick mouthfeel to it. Gets a little bit drier later on. In terms of bitterness and things, I would think that this beer might be around the kind of 50 IBU mark. It's not going to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness and things like that. But yeah, it does have a wee bit of a bitter quality, and it does dry out towards the back of the palate later on. But yeah, I like that about this one. The malt base is very smooth. There's a little bit of sweetness to it, and you've also got some really, really nice juicy, just fruity characters that come out a bit later as well. So yeah, I like how this one, I do like how this one goes together. So yeah, lovely. Lovely kind of lower alcohol ABV stout beer, this one, and I do look forward to seeing more darker beers added to this Totemic Tallboy range, and a few German lagers I think from Williams Brothers would be an interesting thing. I'd love to see them do a Scotch ale, like a kind of a kind of peated Scotch ale or something like that in this Totemic Tallboy range. That would be very, very interesting actually. I'd love that. I'd love to see another Scotch ale from Williams Brothers Brewing, because the only one they have is a kind of traditional beer, if you like. It's a very old school 80 shilling sort of thing. But yeah, another solid addition to another solid member, I guess I should say, of the Totemic Tallboy range from Williams Brothers Brewing. Check out these beers. I've been impressed with all three of them so far, although this one I would say is potentially the most conventional one out of the three. But nothing wrong with that, nothing wrong with that. So yeah, let's leave it there for this review then. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Williams Brothers Brewing Company. I will see about reviewing the lager and the paleo. I think there's also an IPA in that series as well, if I remember right. I think there's 6 Totemic Tallboys now, but I will see about reviewing the other ones for you the next time I make it home to Scotland. So yeah, we'll see about that. But thanks again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Williams Brothers Brewing Company, and I'll catch you guys on the next review. The Chokka Blokka 4.8% coffee and cocoa nib stout, this one, from Williams Brothers Brewing Company, one of my local breweries here in Clackmannanshire in the centre of Scotland. Slàinte, skål, cheers, catch you guys very soon.